Good afternoon. Welcome to the Heritage Foundation and our Lewis Lehrman Auditorium. We, of course, welcome those who join us on our heritage.org website on all of these occasions. For our guests in-house, we would ask that courtesy check that our mobile devices have been silenced or turned off as we prepare to begin. And of course, for those watching online, you're welcome to send questions or comments at any time, simply emailing speaker@heritage.org. And we, of course, will post today's program on the Heritage homepage for everyone's future reference as well. Welcoming our special guest is Daniel Coaches, who serves as our policy analyst for European Affairs in the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom. His writings have been featured on Real Clear World, foxnews.com, breitbart.com, and he has also provided expert analysis in over 100 and more radio and television appearances. He also served as a panelist for the Transatlantic Think Tank Conference in Brussels, Belgium, and provided parliamentary evidence to the United Kingdom House of Lords Select Committee on the Arctic. He worked at a nonprofit here in Washington prior to joining us here at Heritage. He was a policy analyst there, as well as an advisory, as well as the advisory board company as both a research associate and associate director. Please join me in welcoming Daniel Coaches. Daniel.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Heritage Foundation on a very nice March day. Today, in conjunction with our friends from the Warsaw Institute, who we're very appreciative for your cooperation, we are delighted to welcome Dr. Krzysztof Sterski, Chief of Cabinet to the President of the Republic of Poland. Today, you're here to talk about a very timely and important topic, the 3 Cs Initiative, which formally began in 2016 as an effort by 12 European nations situated between the Adriatic, Baltic, and Black Seas to develop energy and infrastructure ties between your countries. And of course, President Duda was a big part, one of the chief organizers of the 3 Cs Initiative, and so we're thrilled to have you here today to talk on this topic. You're also one of the chief architects of the 3 Cs, so I think the audience is really in for quite the treat. Since April 2017, Minister Sterski has served as Chief of Cabinet and Chief Foreign Policy Advisor to the President of Poland, Andrzej Duda. Minister Sterski serves as State Secretary in the Chancellery of the Republic, the President of the Republic of Poland, and has been an Associate Professor at Jagiellonia University in Krakow since 2013. Prior to becoming State Secretary, the minister served 4 years as a member of Parliament from the Law and Justice Party from 2011 to 2015, and from 2013 to 2014 as Editor-in-Chief of the bi-monthly magazine Arcana. Dr. Sterski earned his PhD from the Institute of Political Science and International Relations at Jagiellonia University in Krakow, where he also earned his master's in Political and Social Sciences. Our esteemed speaker today has also served as a strategic advisor to the Law and Justice Party in the European Parliament, a member of the Polish Civil Service Council, Undersecretary of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and in the Office of the Committee for European Integration, and assistant professor at the School of Business at National Louis University. With that, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the microphone Krzysztof Sterski. Minister.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me to the Heritage Foundation. Thanks to the Warsaw Institute for cooperation in that event. And thank you very much for extensive introduction. And I'm very, very impressed by the fact that you pronounce my name properly. It's because you used to say that my name is the biggest obstacle in my international career. Because so thank you very much for that. This is a very, very Polish name, Sterski, really is. And thank you very much for also choosing the topic of our today's meeting, meaning the 3 Cs Initiative, because really it is how we see it from Warsaw, from the region, as one of the most important new initiatives that's growing on in Europe of today. This is something really been grassrooted just a few years ago, and it's got quite a significant dynamics, and it's really been maturing as we speak. And the third summit of the 3 Cs Initiative will take place this year in September in Bucharest. And we do hope with the second one, organized by Poland in Warsaw last year, was marked by the presence of President Donald Trump. We still hope to have also the American interest and the presence also this year in the Bucharest summit on this way on a high level. What is the 3 Cs? Because I think we need a kind of introduction, which has already been started. This is the initiative of the 12 states of Central Europe, which means the 12 Baltics, the 3 Baltics, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, 4 Visegrad Group countries, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary, 2 countries from the former Yugoslavia, Slovenia and Croatia, 2 countries of the Black Sea, Bulgaria and Romania, and Austria. The main idea of the 3 Cs is to unlock the potential of the Central Europe. That's why it is deliberately chosen the symbol of the 3 Cs, because the C is always a symbol of openness, of the access to the Central Europe. So Central Europe as we are discussing it and as we're defining it, there are 3 doors or 3 windows open to the rest of the world, which is the 3 Cs of the Central Europe. And these 3 Cs of the Central Europe is the Baltic Sea, the Adriatic, and the Black Sea. So this is the triangle of the 12 countries being placed in the triangle between the 3 Cs, the 3 open gates to the Central Europe. This idea of the 3 Cs, of the intense cooperation between the 12 countries, started by the presidents, the heads of the states of these countries, came out from the analysis of the deficits that we have to overcome, and the potential that is being locked in between these 3 Cs among these 12 countries. As you know, the Europe been for so long after the Second World War divided into East and West. When it got united in 2004 with the enlargement of the European Union to the Central Europe, always been developing since that, especially since 1989 when the freedom came back to Europe, but especially after 2004 when we rejoined the European Union. It's always been developing on the pattern of the East-West axis, which was natural in a sense because Europe was divided to the East and West. So overcoming this division between East and West was the main target of a developing strategies for Europe. And also, every money and the projects and thinking was all about to overcome this division between East and West. More or less, we were successful in that strategy. Of course, the Europe still needs investment on that as well. But in the meantime, we still continued, and it's actually emerging even more after the financial crisis after 2008, the fact of the division between North and South. And Europe is now also internally divided between North and South. And it also it's valid for the Central Europe, that the axis North-South was really underdeveloped after the 1989 and after 2004. We've all been trying to get ourselves integrated to the West, which is natural, as I said. But we really somehow forgot the need to organize ourselves also in the North-South axis. And this is one of the deficits we were thinking of while developing the strategy of the 3 Cs. But we need to develop the infrastructure on the corridor north-south within the Central Europe. The second important deficit is, of course, the lower level of development in this region. So still some basic needs for infrastructure investments in this region, and the fact that this region should also be integrated to form a valid and important part of the broader community of the free nations and of the transatlantic or Euro-Atlantic, as we say it in Poland, of the Euro-Atlantic world. Because for Poland and for most of the countries in that region, you can always hear the same notion, which is the Euro-Atlantic community. Because in some of our Western partners, there is a clear division in thinking of a European community, which is somehow, it fluctuates, of course, but from time to time being not only regarded separately from the transatlantic community, but somehow even contradictory to the transatlantic bond. For the countries of Central Europe, it's always been talking about the Euro-Atlantic community, which means this is, for us, this is the unity between the transatlantic bond and the European integration, that it's only valid when it's supportive one to another. That's why we think that the Central Europe should and must be the valid part of this Euro-Atlantic community, and it can only be valid part of the community while it's developed enough to be also the economic partner and a good business partner for the rest of the this Euro-Atlantic partnerships. That's why, and this is another very important part of the message coming from 3Cs. This is from the very beginning meant not to be just a political endeavor, just another political initiative that will be only close to the political circles, and that it should be, that this is just a kind of another group of the leaders in a political sense. That it's from the very beginning meant to be primarily the business cooperation, the economic cooperation, the investment cooperation. That's why there was three topics that has been chosen for the interest of the 3Cs. That the transport infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, and the telecommunications, because that's what we think is the tools to develop the north-south axis in our region, and to develop the subjectivity of the region in the European and Euro-Atlantic policies. So it is, of course, it's got the political umbrella, it's got the political support from the heads of states, but finally it should be just realized in the infrastructure projects in the three areas: transport, telecommunication, and energy. Of course, this all has second meaning, that especially the energy means also the energy security through the diversification of the sources, so the interconnectivity between the countries. That's why the slogan, the motto of the 3Cs is 3Cs means not only Cs in the sense of the sea, but the Cs in the alphabetic sense of the letter C, which is a connectivity, complementarity, and commerciality. Because it is all about connectivity between the group of the countries. It's all about complementarity. That means to build up the complementary development of our region to the rest of Europe, and commerciality, to make it in a way open for public-private partnerships, open for the business investment, open for the business presence in our region. Because what I should also say from the very beginning, we don't want it to be regarded as somehow being contradictory to the mainstream of the European integration. The 3Cs initiative is only grouping the EU member states, because we really want to have this within the European Union. So within as the complementarity sense of the complementarity as we understand it, that it is within the EU countries, which means, of course, which then puts a bit of tensions in the region, because we got the application from the countries outside the European Union to be the part of the initiative, but so far we wanted to be limited to the EU member states, just to show that this is not the new regional organization that is somehow exiting ourselves from the mainstream of the European integration. Just the otherwise, it is within the EU, within the Euro-Atlantic community that we want to develop our own potential. That we want to develop our own to show up our cooperation between ourselves. What is the potential of this region? It is, as I said, it's 12 countries. It's over 112 million people, which is a significant market. The average GDP growth for the area is above 4% in the last year. So this is also quite significantly fast developing group of the countries. The aggregated GDP of the Three Seas countries is over 1.5 trillion of the US dollars. The GDP by purchasing power parity is $3 trillion. The unemployment is, if you compare it to the European average, is lower than the EU average. It's less than 7%. And if you look at from the perspective of the energy security, the countries of the Three Seas Initiative put together import over 40 million cubic meters of natural gas per year, and that should increase by 2030 by 13%. That means this is also the growing market for the gas import and the developing of the gas cooperation. Because as I said, this is primarily all about the interconnectivity, but behind that is also the question of the security and all the countries of the Three Seas sees its future in the diversification of the resources, and especially that in the gas. And you know that every country is now developing its path towards the diversified gas market. How it looks in the practice? In the practice, we are now on the stage of choosing or selecting the flagship projects of the Three Seas Initiative. Those that's going to be realized, both financed by the EU and both financed by the other means. This all should be the projects that interconnect at least 2 or 3 countries of the region in the different areas of the. From the Polish perspective, the flagship project, of course, is what is called the Via Baltica, which is the road from Baltics all the way down to the Balkans. It's Rail Baltica, is the railway project that is also interconnecting the whole region. It is the electricity grid between Poland and the 3 Baltic states, which will connect the 3 Baltics finally to the system of the European Union. Because I don't know if everybody of you knows that the Baltic states are still part of the Soviet electricity network. They should have a grid to the EU electricity system, and that should be done through the grid to electricity grid with Poland, so that it would be they can cut themselves out of the Soviet former Soviet system of electricity system. And of course, from our perspective, is also the LNG terminal in the Świnoujście, which is our gate to LNG, and we are very proud and happy that for the first time, we contracted also the US gas supply for this LNG terminal in Poland. So the US gas is circulating in the Three Seas gas system, which is important, which just somehow also shows the perspective of the cooperation in this area. So there are this kind of flagship projects. We are now under the selection of the projects, and we hope that by the summit in Bucharest this year, we will be able to present the list of the flagship projects of the three Cs. And then we are also working on developing the financial tools for realizing this project. So I said this is there are different now things in a pipeline on building up not only the EU funding for that, but also to attract the external funds for these projects. In the same time, from the organizational point of view, structural point of view, the Bucharest summit should bring out the Three Cs Initiative Business Forum, and we even think of organizing the sort of Three Cs Business Council that to group the chambers of commerce from the Three Cs countries, but also to open this business council to the partners from outside. And of course, there's also one more feature of this initiative that I think is worth mentioning, is the fact that no, we are not talking about the vacuum. There's never is a vacuum in the politics. It's always someone interested in this or other region. And I think the Central Europe is the part of Europe that needs a genuine interest from outside partners. Sometimes this interest is not very much welcomed, but it of course is. Now we are hosting now the U.S. Army in Poland, both under the NATO flag and under the U.S. flag, and we keep on joking that this is the first foreign army that are welcomed to Poland in the last 300 years. So sometimes this interest is being paid against our will, but still it is. And you should know that if you look at the development of the Central Europe, there is a huge interest being presented and realized from our Chinese partners. And there is under the name of 16+1, so 16 countries of the Central Europe, also those outside the EU, plus China. So our Chinese partners are already in the region. There's of course the genuine economic interests of the European partners. I mean, from the West Europe, especially Germany, and this is realized through the EU common market. So, for all of our countries, Germany is the first economic partner. So this interest is also being realized through the instruments of the European Union, and that's why you think. And of course, there is interest being presented and proposed by the Gulf countries to penetrate the market of the Central Europe in this way or another. With the investment coming from this Gulf money, and we do believe that to have the balanced development of the region, we also need the genuine U.S. interest in the region. Not only this one that is realized through the NATO and the army presence and our security cooperation, but also through the U.S. more vital presence in the development of the infrastructure and all this, which is building up the subjectivity of the Central Europe through the economic development. And so if you look at it from the broader global perspective, this is one of the regions in the world that you got also sort of need for balancing of the interests of the external partners. Not to mention our big neighboring country called Russia, which of course is present both in the gas market, surely, as you understand, but also in the other markets of this region. So you got the Russia, you got the China, you got the Germany via EU, you got Gulf, and then the Three Cs is also open for. And I think this is one of the offers for the U.S. partnership with the region, and as a part of the global strategy, because this is we are talking about the region which is safe, which is stable, which is democratic, which is like-minded with the U.S. So it is obviously the very much good partner for this kind of the joint efforts and the joint investment. So I do believe this is the project of the future. The thesis is this is the, as I said, the first grassrooted project of this kind of integration invented, so to say, in Europe for many years, and I think this is this can be the successful story if it's maturing as so far it is doing, and if it really is also find the support of the, as I said, of like-minded countries like the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Minister, thank you very much for those informed and very thoughtful remarks. I think there's a real palpable sense in your remarks today about the what can be the success that the Three Seas Initiative can bring to the region, and that's of course a benefit not only to your country but also to the United States, I think, and our strong partnership with Poland. Perhaps if you permit a few questions from the audience. I think we have microphones. If you just, when I call on you, just please state your institution affiliation and name and a short question. But perhaps a question from myself to begin. There was a report last year from Price Waterhouse and the Atlantic Council about Three Seas. And it noted that the countries of the Three Seas account for 28% of the EU's territory, 22% of its population, but only 10% of the GDP. And I thought that those numbers were quite striking. In this Three Seas Initiative, I imagine that as the differences between Western European EU countries and some of those in the East start to shrink, presumably the political influence of those nations taking part in the Three Seas will also rise in addition to their economic heft. How do you see that, and do you see that changing the political dynamics within Europe over the next decade? And what role do you see Poland playing politically in this transformed space? Thank you.
Should I answer immediately, or should we collect the questions?
Perhaps we'll just take one at a time,
Right.
if that's okay with you.
Should I then?
Yes, please. Whatever's comfortable. You can.
This is a very, very interesting, and of course the question that is worth another seminar about the internal EU dynamics. The problem is that what we really see as a problem in that case, because of course, as you said, there is a question of mix between the economic and the political influence of the different regions of Europe. The real concerns are two, I would say. The first is that because of within the debate of the future of Europe nowadays, that is starting in the EU again. There is a tendency of the certain countries of the western part of our community to bring back the division between East and West, just a contrary to what we achieved after 2004, and we surprisingly we start hearing the same kind of stereotypes that used to be vocal in the just before the integration of the Central Europe to the European Union in 2004, like saying the cheap labor force in the East, that we should somehow bring back the borders within the common market, not to be open for dumping of the labor dumping from the East or something like that. And this is just exactly the contrary to the idea of the European integration, because our countries actually we are benefiting from the common market, and we are the guardians of the common market. Paradoxically, we are the guardians of the common market now within the European Union, against those who are trying to be more protectionist within the European and using the instruments of the European Union to influence the free movement of people, free movement of goods, just bringing back this stereotyping of the East-West division. So I think this is the signal coming from the Central Europe within the European Union, that we want to be to save the common market within the discussion of the future of Europe, especially nowadays when we are on the edge of Brexit, so the European Union will lose the voice, this liberal voice, the economic liberal voice of London within the internal debate of the also in the question of the global trade, which I think this is a hot topic now in Washington also. But the advocate of the free trade, the advocate of the free market, which London is always playing that role, we could soon lose it, and it cannot be replaced by the protectionist voice of the other capitals. We would like it to be saved also by the Central Europe as those which I think is now we used and we want it to be guaranteed as I said, this is what we benefit from. So I would say this is the political dynamics which is important from our point of view, that somehow we see this. And the second important problem is that European Union, looking from outside, looks as a very integrated area, but we still have a very important division lines within the European Union, or the borders within the European Union, especially with the two groups of the two internal groupings are really dividing Union, because not all the member states are part of it. One is the Schengen zone, which is the free movement of people. Some countries from our region is out of the Schengen zone, like Croatia, like Romania and Bulgaria. And then there's a Eurozone. So the Schengen zone and the Eurozone. These are two inside groupings of the European Union. And both of them, both the Schengen zone borders and the Eurozone borders, actually are dividing the Central Europe. Because most of the western part of the European Union, they are all members of both the Eurozone and most of them, both of the Eurozone and the Schengen zone. In Central Europe, this is different, because part of us, both the Eurozone and the Schengen zone, is dividing Central Europe. So we need to secure also the cohesion of the European Union, even if there is this tendency to build up the internal first group of the countries, or the internal grouping of within the European Union, because that would really divide the Central Europe again. If this internal core European Union would be organized within the borders of Eurozone and Schengen zone, this will be very divisive for the Central Europe. So we have to keep this this unity against this tendency to build up the first, second, third speed Europe, build up of the internal groupings of internal borders of the European Union, because that's would be very harmful for our part of Europe.
Thank you for that question. Yes, perhaps over here first.
Yes, thank you. My name is Mike Gonzalez. I'm a senior fellow here at Heritage. Earlier this week, you met with Kurt Volker, the special envoy for Ukraine negotiations. Yesterday in Warsaw, he said that he thought that Russia might make peace and get out of eastern Ukraine. Does Poland share his optimism?
I would say, as close you are to Russia, the less optimistic you are about the Russian, because we just don't have only analysis; we got also experience of neighboring this country. So unfortunately, I do believe that the strategy is to keep the instability as long as it is possible. That it's not just to it's just to keep this region in an unstable situation, either through the frozen conflicts or through this kind of mild tension or mild intense conflicts. And this is this should be also I think this also needs a reflection that the Polish-Ukrainian border is the last safe border in Europe towards east. Next one is already the war border, which is the eastern Ukraine. If you go in south, there's a frozen conflict in Transnistria. If you go further east, there's a frozen conflict in Georgia. So we are on the edge, and this is very this is one of the primary question of the Polish foreign politics nowadays. That we are the both the border country both of the European Union and NATO, and we are paying the price for being the border country. And we are bordering with the region of instability. So this is for us the unfortunate, I would say, situation when we are neighboring the war zone, so to say. This way, as I said, on the different intents of this of the conflict. The second problem is that Georgia 2008 and Ukraine in the recent years, none of these conflicts were wars. If you look at it from the formal point of view, there was no war in a post-Soviet area after the Soviet collapse. Both of them are somehow something between what is classical, what is defined in the UN Charter as a war and peace. And this is what also needs a reflection, that we are living in the world that the classical definitions are not really valid for the reality, and we have to somehow be able to respond to the conflict, which has never been declared as a war, but we know that it changed borders. So this is what I also maybe, if I may humbly propose it for the reflection within the Heritage Foundation analytic circles, that this is something that really needs a good analytic definition, that the borders in Europe changed, even we didn't have a war in Europe for years.
I think we had another question in the back.
Yes, hello. Niall Gardner with the Heritage Foundation. Thank you very much for your excellent remarks. A question for you. Of course, Poland is a crucially important ally for the United States in Europe today. Could you talk about the present state of U.S.-Polish relations, especially the relationship with the Trump administration, and also if you could discuss the ways in which the United States and Poland are cooperating together closely in terms of addressing the rising Russian threat opposed to Eastern Europe? Thank you.
Right. Again, the next seminar then. What I would say, the Polish-US or US-Polish strategic partnership, I think, is solid and it should and it's really valued for the geopolitical stability of Europe, and Europe is valid for the geopolitical stability of the world. So I think this is very important for this strategic partnership to be solid and as it is now. What is important, although nowadays, is that we've been able to build up the new instruments of the Polish-EU-US partnership. That we are still thinking of the way to develop this partnership, in a sense, to be the realistic partnership. What I'm thinking of, that's what we're discussing now. The 3 Cs is one of the tools that can be developed, that can be explored, and engage more of the U.S. investment and U.S. business attraction to our region. Secondly, we are now the part of the Security Council. Poland is the non-permanent member. U.S. of course is there. So there's a new tool for. We want this place with the record number of votes from the international community. So we are now partners also in the Security Council. The U.S. presence, military presence in Poland under the NATO flag and the American flag is a new development that makes our partnership even more, I would say, everyday experience. And we are still building the base for the missile base in Poland. So this will be another infrastructure development of the Polish MDI, so of the Polish US partnership, and there's got this LNG terminal and LNG supply for Poland, contract for Poland. This opens up the new channel of the partnership in the energy security between Poland and US. So this is there are still new initiatives within the Polish-US cooperation, which is, I think, this is the most important development in the recent years. It's not just the kind of keep on declaration of this partnership, but this is a living partnership. So there's still new initiatives, new ideas that are circulating between Washington and Warsaw, which I found the most important. And I do believe that all the other questions that have been posed within also within the political dialogue between Poland and US can be resolved and can be discussed. And it's good that we are having open discussions, and it's good that because we trust each other, we can discuss all the issues. It's not this is the trustful dialogue, and this is which is the most important, because when you trust each other, you can really even have a very sincere positions, I would say, and discuss them. And I think this is the trust it is still here between Poland and US, and this is the most important part.
Sir, in the gray jacket.
Thank you for your comments. Steven Stoltenberg, I work at the State Department. And you mentioned a flagship project for the 3 Cs, this electricity interconnector between Poland and the Baltic states. We've learned from our Baltic partners recently that Russia is very rapidly building infrastructure in Kaliningrad Oblast and also in Russia itself, which will allow Russia to unilaterally disconnect the Baltic states from its electricity grid by 2020, whereas the Baltic states are likely to make the connection with the European continental grid by 2025 at the earliest. So that's a 5-year gap or vulnerability. I'm wondering, since you have mentioned this as a flagship project, would Poland advocate accelerating that project to address this vulnerability?
Thank you very much for that question. Because of the nature of the negotiations, I can really not reveal what we are discussing now. But we are very much aware that the time is important. Time frame is important in that project. That we are very well aware of that. That this is also the kind of the timing, as I said, is a part of the success. So yes, we are aware of that.
At the Institute of World Politics, you mentioned that the Schengen zone and the Eurozone divide European Union. Would you advocate for the introduction of Euro in the group that you are creating at this point?
With the Euro, the question of the Euro, as we see it from Warsaw, is a purely economic question and a pure economic decision. It's entering the Eurozone is the decision that should be made on the economic factors. That's why we don't want the internal reform of the Eurozone to put the extra pressure on the non-Eurozone member states to join the Eurozone against their economic interests. Because it should follow the economic interests of each of the member states. Poland isn't, because as you said, within the European Union towards the Eurozone, there are 2 different set of countries. There are countries like Denmark, which got an permanent opt-out from the Eurozone. So they are not going to join the Eurozone. They not even are asked to join because they got permanent opt-out. Brits was the other one, but they are leaving. The Swedes are potentially in, but everybody knows Sweden would never join it. Poland is one of those countries who formally are the part of the Eurozone, because this is in our accession treaty. We just got the derogation. So it's just so we are formally the part of the Eurozone. That's why we are interested in the internal reforms of the Eurozone, because potentially we are the part of it, and formally we are the part of the Eurozone. But we got a derogation. That means we got the non-permanent opt-out from that. So we wanted the Eurozone to be to reform inside, so to be stable, to be a good trading partner within the common market of the European Union for us, because of course this is the biggest trading partner of the Eurozone member states, by far the biggest economic partner within the European Union of us, but not to put extra pressure on us to join, because if they would come, then it would be done under the purely economic data factors, because joining the Eurozone is a complete, it's like Big Bang in your economy, because everything is re-evaluated in the economy, starting from the property up to the salaries. Everything has got a new value. So even the question of the rate of this re-evaluation is a huge, because this really changed everything. If you imagine that this really like re-evaluating everything you have, from your car to your cat, and from your cat to your salary, everything will have a new value when you join the Eurozone. So this should be really done very vigilantly.
Thank you, Minister. I think to keep the trains running on time, we'll take a final question, Mr. Kim, and then I'll perhaps ask closing.
Thank you, Daniel. Anthony Kim with the Heritage Foundation. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for wonderful remarks. President Trump hasn't tweeted about this 3C initiative, but we do know that he is very much keenly interested in this. He attended a conference last year, so he basically conveyed his personal support for this great idea, and congratulations on that. To me, as a person who follows trade and investment issues, next step seems to be how to elevate the current stage to the next level. That means real dollars and transaction between United States and these 12 countries getting involved. Do you have any coordinated outreach to the United States, for example, to get more support from business side? If not, what kind of roadmap do you have in your mind? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Of course, much depends on the U.S. Policy, including the trade policy and the tariff policy, because of course, if there is a new development in that idea, in that sphere, that will kind of, I would say, also influence the 3Cs and the U.S. Business contacts. But apart from that, if you have, I cannot really say it or declare it too extensively now. But yes, we got a very precisely build up the road to the September summit, to present and to propose at the September summit the practical instruments that can be used also for the U.S. investment funds and for U.S. equity funds to get into the 3Cs in a practical way. That's what I can say now.
Thank you. Perhaps a final question from me.
The gentleman here trying to get the question.
Yes.
Thank you. What can Poland do to stop the destabilization efforts in the media? So, for example, in national member state protests, Washington Post, New York Times, and Huffington Post reported that were name-calling, very similar to that what was happening in Ukraine during the revolution. I mean, I hope it's not sinister, but how can Poland defend itself from that?
No, this is we'll soon. I mean, in the second half of this year, we also have an interesting conference that will be that's going to be held in Latvia, of the presidents of the European states, of the soft security, and this is the part of this story, because I was surprised by the numbers, but we recently got it from at this conference in Latvia that 60% of the content generated with the words NATO, Poland, all the EFP countries, these enhanced forward presence countries, 60 up to 80% of the content in the social media was generated either by bots or by external actions, deliberate actions of this disinformation, which is really striking if you think that 80% of what you read in the social media is either by bots, by robots, or by the deliberate disinformation actions. That means we are really living in the disinformation world, not the information area. We are living in the disinformation era now. So we have to really think of on a different levels, both from the media world up to the politics, how to respond to the fact that we are living in the disinformation area. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, just a final question, I think, for me, a two-parter, and the first is how you see, you mentioned 16+1, how you see Chinese investment in your country and in the region. Are you concerned about any of the drawbacks and sort of how you see that relationship moving forward? And then the second one, your question sort of reminded me of, so Poland, of course, one of 6 countries last year that actually met the NATO benchmarks for spending. And obviously, this has been something that's been a big part of the Trump administration's agenda within NATO. And how do you see us moving other European countries in NATO to meet those 2% and 20% benchmarks in spending? Thank you.
Well, with the benchmark, of course, it's the if the U.S. president cannot do it, we won't be able ourselves to do it. We're just setting the good example, and this is how we can influence the others, by setting the good example. And I think we are doing that because we really understand the need for modernization of army, and I think we are doing it in a smart way. To the Chinese, no, we are as a country, we are open for partnership. We are not for sale. We are working for partnership, and unless the partnership is proposed, then it's okay. But we are not the countries for sale, and so this is the most important benchmark in the cooperation of 16+1.
Thank you. Well, with that, I think that we're unfortunately out of time. But if you'd all please join me in thanking Minister Szczerski for his wonderful remarks today. Thank you all for coming out today.